What's up, everyone? I am Wink.
And I am Skillz.
And this is Scream Cheese. Today, we are talking about the film Totally Killer, directed by Nanancha Khan, starring Kiernan Shipka, Olivia Holt, and Charlie Gillespie. When the infamous Sweet 16 killer returns 35 years after his first murder spree to claim another victim, 17-year-old Jamie accidentally travels back in time to 1987, determined to stop the killer before he can start.
I'll say right up front, I liked it a lot, but I would like to hear your thoughts on it.
So I feel the same way, man. I enjoyed it a lot. I would say that it's super compelling when you're dealing with like a time travel story and it's like produced really well. It's got like a fun script. You're just drawn into it. As soon as I finished the film, I was like, wow, I really enjoyed that. And then I kind of didn't think about it anymore. And then today when I started thinking about it, you could poke 150 million holes into the plot. So it's not the type of movie that you want to like think too hard about. I think it's designed to be fun. I think it achieves that like pretty perfectly. There's nothing deeper than a time travel slasher whodunit, you know? And I think that's what we got.
Yeah, to me, it felt like a mashup of Scream and Back to the Future, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
She has to go back in time, and I mean, it's all pretty obvious what they're doing, but it's incredibly entertaining, and I actually laughed a lot. There was a lot of funny moments. I really liked how they took kind of like a girl from today who's like been exposed to like the woke culture, and you clash her against like 80s kids, which is a completely different culture and time. That was really fun seeing that dynamic.
I agree. I think that is a really good backdrop. I guess I have some concerns that, you know, every time travel story post 2020 is only going to point out the like sensitivities that we now have versus kind of the insensitive nature of the culture before. Time travel stories, I think, always kind of touched on that, but like often it's like, man, they wear funny things or they don't have this particular technology, but this need to constantly poke at like, oh, they didn't know that that's inappropriate. Like, I think that's funny. I think that it's worth doing that joke. I guess I'm concerned that was the joke a lot. And I guess I'm not so concerned about this movie as every time travel story going forward. Is that all we're gonna do? Because like, dude, I get it. Like things were pretty insensitive, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that brings up a good point because for me personally, this is the first movie I've seen like really do that. They kind of rode that line down the middle where they weren't really picking a side politically, you know? Mm-hmm. It was just kind of entertaining. But you bring up a good point because we are in a completely different world now. And so, yeah, definitely moving forward, is this going to be a thing that's portrayed more often in films that deal with time travel? Again, there's not a whole lot to say about this. I would just say go watch it. I think most people will like it. It's almost like a roller coaster ride in a way, in the sense that it's a lot of fun, but there's not really a whole lot to say about it without getting into spoilers. I will say that although I loved the film, I was a little disappointed with kind of the finale and the killer. It wasn't done bad at all. Like I said, it's kind of a mashup of Scream and Back to the Future. So like a whodunit, Back to the Future. The whole ending with the final girl and the killer, it felt very short and rushed, whereas in a movie like Scream, everything's building towards that moment. And in here, I feel like it's not that they did anything wrong, it just wasn't quite as satisfying as I thought it could have been. You brought up earlier, of course you can poke holes in it. You can in a lot of time travel movies, but
yeah, absolutely.
This movie doesn't really give you a chance to think about that stuff when you're watching it because it moves along so well. And there's a lot of humorous moments and it's paced very well to where, you know, you start watching it and before you know it's over and you had a great time.
I agree with you when it comes down to kind of the final act and the reveal of like who you're dealing with and everything. I think everything was fine. It was good. It made sense. Was it the most satisfying? Maybe not, but like it was serviceable. And I definitely feel like this was one movie where it proceeds at such a clip that you don't have time to think about the fact that you're even watching a movie. It pulls you in, you enjoy the ride. It's pretty expertly done that way. I would say all of the performances are like either perfectly fine or good enough. There's nobody's performance that draws you out that much. The standout in the movie for me was Randall Park, the sheriff, dude. Dude, that actor is like super funny. He was just on it in this movie. Like his one line about the DNA in the database when he's like,
oh, that was great.
Your DMA, like, dude, it was so funny, man.
I had seen him before. I'm not as familiar with him as you, but now that you bring it up, I absolutely loved him. He was like, he just had a certain charisma. Like every time he was on screen, you knew you were going to have a good moment. But yeah, that's another thing too. It wasn't just pitting the two cultures from 87 and today against each other. It was also just things that we're used to now. There's a moment where the main character is trying to basically check into school for a class, right? And it's like old school 87 where the lady at the front desk is like, yeah, just go to your class, just go.
Here's your
She's like,
schedule,
wait,
go.
what? You know, it's before the internet, you know, so before everything.
She's like thinking she's gonna have to get screened and verify that everything's cool. No, just, go to class.
Yeah, she's like, you're a teenager, you're at school. Why would you be here? Just go to the classroom.
In 1987, people are just irresponsible, and there was no databases or internet to be heard of, so they couldn't verify anything.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I guess we should end this with a score.
Sure. I give this movie a 7.5. I think I gave it an 8 on IMDb. I think that's a good roundup from a 7.5. It's such a perfectly fine film. You know, like I could watch this again. I enjoyed it. I laughed. It did exactly what it's supposed to do. Is it great? Probably not, but it's so enjoyable that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And I also had a 7.5. That was my exact score. I can't imagine anybody not finding something that they like about this film.
It's like barely horror. It is horror, but just on the cusp of it. The only thing that makes it horror is like stabbing. It's almost more sci-fi comedy than horror.
Now that you bring that up, I'm really picky about comedy and horror being mixed together because they're basically my two favorite genres. I don't want to say this to like scare people away, but this almost felt like a bit more serious, like scary movie. It's really focused on the comedy, but that doesn't take away from like the situation where there's nothing at stake. You know, you feel that there are definitely things at stake. I guess the best way of putting it is it's more Back to the Future than it is Scream as far as tone. So more comedy.
All right, folks, let us know what you thought of Totally Killer in the comment section below, and we will see you next time. Peace out, cheesers.
We'll see you again in another year. Peace out, cheesers.